Welcome to everyone. Welcome to A Tale of One State, analyzing the Tennessee State Museum's new collection portal. We are proud to have Sharon Osofsky, Curatorial Assistant at the Tennessee State Museum, with us today on how the Tennessee State Museum recently uploaded its respective public portal to allow the extensive collection to be online for the first time. Using analytics, the institution has studied the visitor data and then used the information to improve and revise the portal, as well as how the collection is organized. Understanding how the portal is used is vital now to learn about visitors, especially with museum closures and reopenings. So first, our session speaker will be presenting, and after the panel discussion has concluded, we'll be taking questions that you submit in the question or the Q&A box to the right of your screen. Or we also have the option to go actually explore the Tennessee State Museum's website, depending on how the flow of our conversations go. So I will now turn it over to our speaker to begin her session. Thank you, Sharon.
Welcome. So again, my name is Sharon Osofsky, and I'm a curatorial assistant at the Tennessee State Museum. And basically, I'm going to be talking about what the Tennessee State Museum online portal was, how we designed it, and basically what we've seen over the 2020 year. The portal initially went up in September 2019, and I did a one-year analysis of the first year it was up, but 2020 seemed like a little bit of an easier year to kind of figure out based on how the statistics came out. So we're just going to start with a little bit of background of what our collection database is, and we all know that they're a digital information hub, and it could be representative of what information is in a physical file, but it also can contain more. And museums and other information organizations choose their databases based on the type of collection that they have and what would be the best fit for that collection. So a couple examples: Argus, Past Perfect, TMS, Collective Access, and Rediscovery. So the Tennessee State Museum uses Argus as its collection information management system, and we use it to create records and activities, clean up lexicon terms, track locations, update conditions, create loans. And then our new thing is Online Argus, where we actually created a portal within Argus in order to be uploaded onto our website. And within Argus, we create activities and records, and that's the information provided in the physical file, and the records include more of that physical description and anything else that we need in order to find the record later on. And it's the record part that we use mostly in order to create what goes on the portal, which I will be going through in a little bit. And then the other thing that we use Argus for, that we used with creating this portal, is lexicon terms, and that's using Chenal, which is the nomenclature terms, and then our local terms, which are best suited to our collection. So that's peoples, locations, events, cultural aspects. So artists, counties, cities, Civil War, battlefields, and other things. And then aspects like religious history, women's history, things like that, how we kind of classify our collection in a way. So as of 2020, on the website right now, there's about 2,200 artifacts out of the 160,000 artifact records that we have. And within the portal, there's a couple of different search functions. So you have your Google function where you can type in anything and anything will pop up. You have the advanced function, which will let you narrow down what you need to search. You can search our different types of collections, and then you can search our different type of exhibits. And as of last week, we added a new type of exhibit, which is online exhibits. But because that came up next week, that wasn't included in the analysis that I did. The website is up on the slide, but I am more than welcome to take us to the website itself at the end of this so we can explore on our own. So basically, the portal was made within Argus itself. So we actually were able to create the layout that we wanted, how it kind of looked, to make sure that it kind of stayed relevant to what our actual museum website looked like and all that. So, and this is one area where we are able to add the different tab columns and kind of figure out how it would look. And then this is another screenshot of the same kind of page. And on the left-hand side, you can see like the different kind of display and search kind of functions we could add to this. And then what we had to do is that we had to create an object template specific to the portal because we're looking for specific terms and areas that would be displayed on the portal. So there are some things that we wanted to hide to not let the public see. So one of the questions we had to ask was, well, what would we want them to see? So in this case, party role would not be included in that because that's basically describing who donated or if we purchased an object. So our objects were chosen for this portal in different ways. The curators at the museum chose their favorite objects in the collection, which included some of the first objects to go onto the portal. Objects in the permanent exhibits of the museum were also chosen, and that's the Civil War and Reconstruction, First Peoples, Forging a Nation, Change and Challenge, and Tennessee Transforms. Next were our thematic lists. So when the Civil War flag book was published, we actually uploaded a good chunk of our Civil War flags to kind of go with the Civil War flag book being published. Landscapes ended up being a thematic list, and it also ended up being our first online exhibit to be uploaded onto the portal. And then we made sure to include that every time a new exhibit or new temporary exhibit went up in the museum, that the objects included within that exhibit would also go up onto the portal. So one of the things that we had to do with the portal is actually go into Argus and start editing the objects in order to upload them. So you would look at the chosen objects, we would look at the specific parameters that we chose for what people would see on the portal, and then we would kind of go in, edit anything that we needed to, and we added a new text field, an online label, which would be different than, it would basically act as like a museum label that you would see for, that a visitor would see when walking in the museum. And then it would be submitted for editing, it would go through an editing process, and then it would ultimately be uploaded onto the portal. So the next couple slides are basically going to show two objects. One is before edits, basically what it looks like in the Argus database and what it would look like on the portal before any edits occurred. And then another object that has been uploaded, and we'll see what it looks like in both database form and portal form. So this object I just chose for fun, and basically you are seeing what it would look like in database form. So anything that's not included on this in, I guess, the editing portion you wouldn't see. So you can tell that the cross file, which is the search terms, are not very, they don't really describe what the object is to help search for it easily. It doesn't have an online label and all that. So on the portal view, it would actually look like this. So you wouldn't be getting that much information regarding it, and it wouldn't have an image because the image hasn't been deemed if it's appropriate or allowed to go on to the portal. So this object has been through the editing process for for the portal itself. So you do see an online label. The cross file has been edited down or edited up in order to be kind of a little bit more searchable and all that other. And you see a little bit more information. So for the portal view, this is what it would look like when it would pop up. So you do see the online label is now known as the object label on the portal, and cross-file is now related subjects to kind of make things easier for searching. So one of the things that I look at is the analytics of it. So I'm looking at the statistics of what visitors on the site search and they click on, and the hope is to use this data to create more online exhibits, possibly refresh physical exhibits, create programs, or just learn about more what the visitors want or are interested in, because I can see specifically what they're searching, and you guys will be able to see that too. So the next bunch of slides is a whole bunch of charts that I've created, and I'll go through each one individually, and I hope you guys all like them. So the first chart is basically all of the total views over time for this whole entire month. So you see for the whole entire year. So you see January to December. It's easy to see that March, there was a lot of searching with 4,122 clicks on the site, and November has the least with 488. So it's actually, usually it stays very steady around the same kind of average, but March is an outlier within itself right now. And total views over time is including everything that was clicked on. So it doesn't matter if the same object was clicked on twice or anything. And I will point out that each view does not mean each view is one person. I have a couple statistics towards the end, and I kind of averaged it out. But yeah, so a view basically means a click for the next charts that come about. So this chart is the view types over time. So this is looking at the 3 different things that visitors can do. They can search, which is basically looking at specific collections and exhibits. A search value is a search term, basically whatever term they type into the Google or advanced function, this is what happens. And then view record is they're literally clicking on a record and viewing it. So search value is usually the one that comes up the most in every single month, whereas search is usually the least clicked on, and view record is always in the middle. And you can see the spikes that occurred in the first chart. So you can see that March has bigger numbers than the rest of the months usually in all 3 areas. And you can see that November, which had the least, has the least amount in. And so people were searching, Google searching a lot in March. So this chart is basically the total collection views. So the site, so our collection is divided up into different types of materials, from art and architecture to science and technology. So this is just a view of if people were interested in certain collections of the museum, of what we have available on the portal. And for the year, art and architecture had the most clicks on, whereas books and booklets had the fewest. So there's that one. And then, so these 2 charts are basically, they're stacked bar charts, which I used in order to kind of demonstrate the totalness of how many views happened, but then you can see like the different exhibits and how they stacked up within each month. So chart 4 shows the permanent exhibit total views, and chart 5 shows the temporary exhibit views. And it's very interesting to see kind of what exhibits people were interested in, and the temporary exhibit views still have exhibits that have been closed. So Quilt closed down in July of 2019, 2019, I believe, and like Let's Eat closed down in February of 2020. So it was kind of interesting to see that they were still looked at throughout the rest of the year in case someone missed it, couldn't see it. They could see it on the portal, and that's very interesting. Like quilts was looked at 5 times in November of 2020. And then what's interesting, as you see in March, First Peoples was looked at the most with 168 clicks. So, and that kind of goes with what happened in March, which you'll see, I can explain that a little bit, but it'll be seen further in further charts. So, and then one of the things that I did, which is really interesting, was that I took the top 10 search terms from January and I basically tracked them throughout the whole entire year. So you're actually so you can see kind of what happened. So in March, Indians had 27 searches, and then Civil War kind of picked up in August and October and November. So it was kind of interesting to see that in some months, some of these were very popular, and then in other months, nothing really happened since most of these actually got 0. I believe like coat only had 4 in January, and then you didn't see it again for the rest of the year. And I believe that's the same with the walking stick too. Like you only saw it in January, and then you didn't really see it for the rest of the year. So it was very interesting to look at how people kind of search throughout the whole entire year. And it was the same with the objects as well. So these are the top 10 objects that were in January, and then I checked them again throughout the whole entire year. So it was very interesting to see that they popped up and then they didn't pop up again. Or if I believe, yeah, so it was just very interesting to see kind of what popped up. So like 2018.40.1, which is I believe a car, popped up in March, and then you didn't really see it again. So that was kind of cool to look at. And then this chart basically shows the whole entire top 20 search terms for the whole entire year. And this kind of chart is a heat map. So the more kind of clicks or searches that a chart had, the darker the color. So Native American is the darkest color at 253. So Native American was searched 253 times for the whole entire year of 2020. And while you're looking at this chart, you can also see, you can see that a lot of these terms are related to Native American terms, and that's because for the first week of March, someone was looking for Native American terms and objects, so they were searching a lot, which added up to March having that 4,000 number of searches. So within that first week, someone searched about 3,000 times. Someone searched about 3,000 times for different Native American objects and search terms to see if they're up online. And another interesting thing that I'll talk about earlier is the terms Johnny Cash, Daisy Slover, and Ed Temple. And I'll probably say this in a couple slides, but that's because those terms popped up because the education department did a scavenger hunt on the portal, and those 3 terms were the 3 terms to look at during the scavenger hunt. So this kind of shows that there can be interdepartmental kind of use with this, and that since something was posted online, the scavenger hunt was posted online, people actually did the scavenger hunt and searched for these, which is why they popped up as being in the top 20 search terms. And then suffrage popped up a lot because we were getting ready to open the ratified exhibit. So it was kind of cool to see that pop up as well. And then this chart is a bubble graph chart, which is kind of similar to the heat map. So the bigger the bubble, the more searches that object got. So I actually put up the table on the right-hand side. So the Chickasaw bag 5.17 got the most clicks, so it has the biggest bubble out of all 20 objects that are on here. And again, most of these objects have to do with Native American because of what happened in that first week of March. So it was very interesting to see that March kind of set the tone for a lot of things because of what happened with what that person or persons were searching for. So the next couple slides include some statistics about what I found that I hope will kind of help with the museum moving forward and using this in order to kind of look at what visitors want. So one of the things to look at was the total views. So for the whole entire year, the portal got 12,716 total views, with March representing 32% of that. So it was quite interesting. So the deep dive, which was that chart with the search value and view record. So it's kind of interesting. So the view record represented 26% of what people did on the site. Searching, which is again, the collections and the exhibits, only represented 12%, whereas that Google search kind of aspect represented 61% because it was used almost 8,000 times. So object-wise, at the end of the year, and this was based on what we had uploaded by the end of December 2020, 973 objects were clicked on, and that is specific objects. So I removed all the duplicates, so I only looked at the specific objects that were clicked on, and that represented 45% of the total objects on the portal. And the most viewed object of the year, which was that Chickasaw bag with 82 views, and that represented 2% of the total object views. Search term wise, there were a total of almost 2,500 search terms used throughout the year, and after I removed the duplicates, people looked up almost 2,000 unique search terms, and Native American was the most searched search term with 253. And I averaged, and so for usage, I averaged this out. So approximately almost 3,000 people visited the site, and that led to about 4 views per visit if we're just looking at a specific single people doing 4 views, but that is probably not the case in some of the months and all that. So, but it was kind of interesting to look at. And so as of right now, what we've learned is that trends do occur. So the scavenger hunt created by the education department led to those terms being the top search terms for a couple of months. So that was kind of interesting. I'm sure there's other trends. I just haven't been able to find them yet, or I'm just not using the correct parameters in order to find them. And then we did learn that problems happen. So the portal is tied to our main database server. So if that goes down, the portal is down, which means people can't really look at anything. We have discovered a couple of other things, like you can't link an object directly to the portal, you would just go to a home page. And I'm betting one of the problems visitors are finding is that if we don't have it up on the portal, you're probably not going to be able to find it no matter how many search terms you use, or if you go into advanced searching, you're probably not going to find it if we haven't uploaded it yet. So for future use, one of the new things that we're doing is we're adding online exhibits. So the first one that went up, which is up last week, is a landscape exhibit. And I'm actually going to be able to do a visitors on the portal online exhibit, and that's going to happen next year when I look at the year 2021 to see kind of what happened. And what I'm thinking is that I'm going to do the same thing that I kind of did for 2020. And if I see like what happened in March with a lot of Native American objects and search terms, I'm like, okay, we should probably add some more Native American objects because that's what you're searching for. It's basically looking at what the visitors are doing on the portal, which is one of the main things that we want. We are going to be adding a lot more objects related to the Civil War, And that's because of a Civil War grant project that's going to happen. And hopefully that'll add anywhere between 2,000 to 5,000 objects. It just depends on what happens. And then there's been talk about adding a teaching collection, and that's adding objects related to the educational standards. So that way teachers will be able to use this in order to go find museum objects when they're teaching about a specific part of history. So that's all I have for right now, but I'm more than welcome to take questions, or we can go explore the website or end early. So.
Okay, well, Ms. Sharon, you've got a few questions.
Okay.
And the top question we have right now is, what factors led you to choose the Argus over other platforms for your museum database?
Well, I can tell you that Argus has been in since I at least started, which was 5 years ago, and that it's been the database in place since I think the early 2000s. And since we are a state agency, I think there's a couple of things around that where we would have to talk to the state about kind of if we were to switch or something, but sometimes it's just easier to stay with the same database as it updates than trying to switch databases. I know there's some instances where they don't really switch over well. So that's probably just one reason. So.
Okay. Let's see. Another question is the end goal to have all the accession items in the collections added to the portal, or will it always be refined by specific categories?
So there will be some objects that probably will not go onto the portal, and that's mostly due to copyright issues if it's paintings and photographs, and that's one of the main, or it's not appropriate for the object to go onto the portal. There are some museums I know that will just do a free-for-all, everything goes up. And I think what we're doing is refining what goes up, and what also this is doing is helping to improve our own records as we do this. So it's going to be a slower moving process, but our goal is to probably get 80% of the collection online at one point. It's just going to be a very slow process as we do this.
Okay. Let's see. Another question. I personally have like tons of questions. I just want to pick your brain at this. So your charts were so cool. So let's see. Have you used the portal to engage the community during COVID? And so, do you have specific suggestions on how some successful online engagement tactics that you'd be willing to share?
Well, in my opinion, the portal was kind of forgotten about a little bit at the beginning of COVID. All the museums as the museums shut down, everyone's trying to figure out how to kind of change tactics and go all digitally. And I thought the museum wasn't truly shut down because we did have the portal where the exhibits were up so people could still enjoy it. And as we went through COVID, the portal kind of was remembered, and I kind of saw that throughout the different months. And actually, let me go back to, okay. So actually, as the museum was shut down, you can actually see there was an increase in usage of the portal. If you take away what happened in March, basically, there were more people looking at the portal in April, May, and June than there were in January and February. So people were still using it when the museum was shut down. So, and then as the museum started to reopen up in July and August, you kind of see that dip because the portal's kind of not needed if you can go into the physical building. But other than that, I would say social media is probably the best way to engage with this, to kind of promote the portal so that you kind of can tell if you're highlighting a specific object, then you can say, oh, it's going to be on the portal. Or if you're doing a specific talk or something and you want an object related on the portal to that, you can kind of say, oh, if you want to learn more information, it's on the portal. And then with the exhibits, just highlighting, since we highlighted, since Ratified, our newest temporary exhibit went up last year, it also went up on the portal. So you're trying to keep everything kind of together with the museum and the portal.
Okay. Another question is, do you have the ability to run these reports like through your database, or is this something you're doing on your own?
So this is actually something I'm doing on my own. I'm actually able to look at all the statistics within the database, but I'm actually using, this is actually using a computer program that I use because I have a background in analytics. So I was able to kind of use Excel and this Tableau program in order to kind of create all these charts and do all the graphic work. But basically what I'm doing is every month I'm taking down the specific information that I want from the Argus database itself, transporting that into Excel, and then kind of manipulating it how I need to manipulate it in order to create all the graphs.
They're very neat.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like our last question, and then there's still a little time if you want to go to the website, is someone said, I noticed that one of the top 20 search terms was an object's catalog / ID number. Let's see. How did that make it so high on the list? Was it from a researcher or from something else?
It could have been from a researcher. It could have been they saw that specific artifact number in the museum itself and they just wanted to see if it was there. I can't tell you off the top of my head if it's actually on the portal or not, but someone could have just said, I'm going to look up this number. It's not here today. I'm going to look it up another day or like another day or something like that. Or what happens is I've actually figured out that the portal does track the museum user. So it could have been a museum staff person who was actually looking for the specific one. So there are multiple ways where specific things, and one of the on that, there have been some times where I think cats have touched the keyboards of their owners because an M, like consistent like 20 M's ended up having 20 searches. So it could just be cats on keyboards for all I know, looking at things.
Very interesting take on that. Well, that looks like that's addressing all the questions that we had written out. I'll keep an eye out in case there are any additional questions. But if you would like to go ahead and go to the website and show us some examples.
Well, it's more like I'm willing to search anything that anybody wants to search to see if we have it, to kind of show how this works. So this is our portal, and basically you can search from the collection. You can do that advanced search, the exhibits. This is the new thing, the online exhibits. You can browse by collection. So I'm willing to do anything that anybody wants to do on this. So.
I'm looking for some chats. Not seeing anything post just yet, but since I'm from the Natural History, from the Great Fossil Site, we were formerly a Natural History Museum, or still kind of are. Your natural history collection is interesting to me.
So for that, we can go browse by collection, and we can actually click on the natural science, and that will bring up 20 records. So this is just a sample of what we have right now. So yeah, let's see. Let's just click on this one. So there you go. And that basically, once you click on an object, it'll bring it up, and then you can even zoom in on the object itself with the image. You want something like that. Or, so one of the cool things that I like about this is we can actually, so if we wanted to look up more things about Nashville, I could just click on the word Nashville and it'll load. We'll get 445 objects that are from Nashville, Tennessee or related to Nashville, Tennessee. So you can actually do like a whole bunch of linking if you wanted to. And then I'll be able to track that when I go in at the end of the month.
Personally, I think that's a really just great option to have to link those.
Yeah.
I played around with it a little bit a couple days ago and was like, oh, that's so cool. That's really Let's see. Okay, we have one that's anything on David Crockett.
Okay. Well, we have 9 objects up. We have a snuff box, a knife attributed to him, a powder horn, his painting, his last paycheck, the life of Martin Van Buren, his coonskin cap and tail, a letter, and then a book. All that we have right now. Now, the thing, I think that if I was actually just to use the word Crockett, we would probably get a little bit more. And we got one more. And that's one of the things we're doing with this is we're cleaning up the lexicon. So if in the lexicon he's a Davy Crockett and a David Crockett, then our job is to try to clean that up to make it all singular.
Very neat.
Well, this popped up Crockett County, which is why it popped up with the title.
Would you mind to click on his coonskin hat?
Sure.
And just that way we can look at the record on that.
There we go.
Oh, and I also have a couple of questions for you. Did you photograph the objects with a black background? Boy, I cannot read. Did you photograph the objects with a white background, or were they edited and then put into the portal? And then I've got another question.
Okay. So for paper documents, they're usually just scanned and the image is high res enough that it can just go on. For a lot of these older objects, we're actually taking them if we can, and we're rephotographing them on with a white background to kind of, and then they're kind of edited and cleaned up a little bit, but it's mostly on a white background.
Nice. Okay, and what is your favorite object on the portal?
Oh, I'm usually always behind the scenes. Never. Well, my favorite object I think is not up on the portal yet, but it's ready to be edited and uploaded when it does get, and that is the Nashville SC scarf, because I got really into doing what the scarves represent at soccer games. So I went into all about the different motions of how scarves are held during different parts of the soccer game. But I find it more fun to look at what people are looking at, and that's just how I am. So.
Yeah, it looks like we still have a few more minutes. I don't know if you have any other exhibits, or if you'd like to, or if you can bring up your online exhibits to kind of show us.
So this is the newest, so the online exhibits is the newest thing that we're doing. And so for each online exhibit, it'll be, I think, a different tab on this, and each one will kind of have like an introduction paragraph, and then you'll get into the objects that are on here. So some of these objects are already on the portal because they were included in exhibits and other lists, where some are completely brand new. And that's one thing that the portal does, is that if it's already up there, you can keep adding all the objects you want, but it's really cool to kind of see where you can have a painting in the Civil War exhibit, but then it'll also be included somewhere else just based on how we use it on the portal and all that.
See, and I've got another question. I've seen on other online collections where it is listed whether the object is on display or if it's available for loan. Do you have any intention on doing something similar?
So the permanent expositions tab basically has everything that's on display already. And then the temporary exhibits is basically what was on display in those temporary exhibits. So you do have what's on display. Loan wise though, I don't believe we're going to do that, right? As of right now, I don't think we're going to do that. You would have to actually physically contact the collections department in order to do loans.
And can you show us an example of your temporary exhibits?
Sure. So what we actually do have is we have the current temporary exhibits up in one part, and then we have the past. So you can actually, and this will continue on as new exhibits come and go. So I guess right now I'll do ratified because that's the one that's most common. So there's 154 objects on the portal, and that's kind of representative of what's on display right now, actually. I'll click on a banner. There we go.
Very nice. Okay, well, I've not seen any other questions come in. Is there anything that you would like to add at the moment?
I enjoyed doing all this analytical stuff. It's kind of cool to watch people kind of look on a website, sort of. But it's very interesting because you're actually getting a view into how visitors think and act, and it'll be very interesting. All of this reminds me, I can't remember the museum's name, but one of the things they did was they gave every visitor a wand, and they basically asked them to scan what their favorite objects were within the museum. And then what they would do is they would take that information and they would ask questions about why certain areas of the museum were more popular than others. Was it the objects or was it that part of the museum itself? So they would actually switch out the objects a couple of times to see if it, to try to answer that question. So it's very interesting to try to answer some of the questions about the visitors, like what are they interested in this month? Do they look at the blog posts that are going up on the website, and does that reflect in the portal, or does a certain social media post kind of resonate with them and then they go look for more on the portal? So it's a kind of a cool insight to a little bit of how a visitor could think. And hopefully this will help the museum in the future with creating exhibits, whether online or on display, or creating programs or doing whether digital or in person. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. You've got lots of things that you can do with that. There's so much potential with just the data that you're gathering. So,
and this is only 1 year, so it's going to be very interesting to track this for like a couple of years and see what happens.
Very much so. Sorry, I'm just kind of double checking your questions and see if there's anything else. Looks like everyone has been really impressed with your reports as well on here. Oh, and I might have missed an opportunity where Brad said that he could jump in and add a few things on why the database was chosen, if he's still available. If he's not, oh, I'm sorry. I guess I actually have to read what he has mentioned. Sorry about that. He said he thinks that in the early to mid 90s is when it was picked. It was ran off an in-house Unix server for years. When they started shifting things into the state data center servers, they converted the current web database, thin client version, for ease of conversion. I haven't seen the studies for why they went with Argus in the first place. but I think it was largely to do with the adaptability and the size of the collection itself.
Thanks, Brad.
Sorry for the delay on that conversation there. We're using a rediscovery. So at the very beginning, they were talking, the video that was playing is actually the database that we chose to go with at our fossil site. So yeah, Brad's like, sorry, I'm not in the Zoom. And I'm like, sorry, I'm new at this. But okay, well, if you have anything else to add, and if not, I'll actually remind everyone to please remember to go to the post-session surveys and just let us know how we're doing with the quality of our sessions, or that team's doing, and that we would like to see at the next session that's coming up. And thank you all for participating and contributing, and so many questions and so many chats that are coming through. It's really great. So
thanks for listening.
And yeah, thank you all, and hope you have a good rest of the day. Enjoy TAM.